We've got a preacher for today, which is a special preacher. We'll be talking about education. So I'll give her. So if you just give her a few minutes, she's just going to get herself set up talking about education.
What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before Him, heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve.
Praise the Lord. Thank you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. I think you guys can hear me. If I use my teacher voice, I think I'll be all right without the mic. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, welcome to everyone. Those who don't know me, my name is Tiffany Hamilton Thomas. I am a teacher. I work in a primary school. In fact, I should use my proper title. I'm an assistant head at the moment, and I work in a primary school. And I'm just going to share with you, for those of you who don't know, February is Education Month. So this isn't really a preaching session. This is more of a teaching session, and I'm going to be talking about indicators to success for children and adults. So I'm just going to do a short talk on what are the indicators to success. So if you yourself are trying to be successful, some of the things that you can develop to increase your chances of being successful. But also if you have young children and you want to instill in them the key qualities that are needed to be successful, what can be done. You can see from my slide that I've got something on here called emotional intelligence. And that's what I'm going to be focusing most of this talk on. So, there's a quote up here. This is from research that was found by Talent Smart. They did some research and they found that emotional intelligence had the greatest influence on someone's ability to be successful. So when they were looking on employment details and so on, emotional intelligence came higher than even being book smart, the knowledge that they actually have. It's their emotional intelligence that allowed them to be more successful than others. And in fact, that created that from their research was 58% of their success was determined by the emotional intelligence that each individual had. So, anyone who studied and looked into emotional intelligence, I know Janae will know, it's a big field to go into, and I'm not going to cover it in the 10-15 minutes that I'm going to be talking to you about. That I'm going to be talking to you. But I just want to highlight a few things that stands out for me working with children, trying to educate children, and just 3 of the key points that come under emotional intelligence that I think can help yourselves to be more successful in whatever education situation we're going into, but also children if you want to train them up in a way for them to be more successful. And the 3 areas I identified was delayed gratification, resilience and self-belief, and I'll go into each one by one to discuss. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is delayed gratification. Now, delayed gratification is basically the understanding that sometimes we have to wait to achieve our prize or the treat or the reward that we want. So there is a very popular study that took place. It's called the marshmallow test. And it tested a lot of children's ability or understanding of delayed gratification. It tested children at a very young age. I think they're about 4 years old. There was a wide age, but I think the average was around 4 years old. And they tested to see how well the children could understand or could handle delayed gratification. Now, there's a quick video I'm going to show you, but basically what the research was is they gave children a marshmallow and said, if you wait until I come back in the room, you can get 2 marshmallows. If you wait and don't eat it until I come back into the room, you can get 2 marshmallows. There's someone at the door. And so what was good about this test is they did it when they were children, but they revisited those children when they did exams and saw their grades, and then revisited those children again in their adulthood to see what sort of success that they had achieved. So I'm just going to show you, hopefully everything's still up, a short video just to explain it a little bit more.
Marshmallow and get a second marshmallow, or let's say you're looking at a marshmallow. You have 2 options. You can either wait for the first marshmallow and get a second marshmallow, or you can have 1 marshmallow now, but then you're done. How long do you think you'd wait for that second marshmallow? Or would you wait for the second marshmallow at all? This is the dilemma facing preschool-age children in the 1960s. Little did they know that the way they handled this dilemma would be part of one of the most famous psychological studies of all time. In this video, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the Stanford Marshmallow Test, what it was, what it said about success, and the impact it's had on psychology to this day. So, the premise of this test was pretty simple. Stanford professor Walter Mischel and his team put a single marshmallow in front of a child, usually around 4 or 5 years old. They told the child that they would leave the room and then come back in a few minutes. Now, if the child ate the marshmallow, they could not get a second. But if the child waited until the researchers was back in the room, the child would get a second marshmallow. Researchers recorded which children ate the marshmallow and which ones waited. And then, researchers waited. They waited and waited and waited. And when the children were teenagers, the researchers revisited the children and asked their parents a series of questions about their cognitive abilities, how they handled stress, and their ability to exhibit self-control under pressure. They also took a look at the child's SAT and ACT scores. And a few years later, the researchers tested the participants again on their self-control. So, what did they find? Well, in short, Mischel and his team found that developing self-control as a child had a profound impact on the child's later success in life. Success came in many forms. In general, the children who waited for the second marshmallow scored higher SAT scores, reported lower levels of substance abuse, were less likely to be obese, and overall had better social skills and self-control, according to their parents. In fact, one of the children who succeeded at the marshmallow test, which surprised me, was Susan Wojcicki, YouTube's very own CEO. Her mother, in her book, How to Raise Successful People, actually noted that one of the researchers contacted her and said that Susan was the child who waited the longest. So, due to the nature of the experiment, the results were published in the 1980s and the 1990s. Since then, the world of psychology has regarded the study as one of the most important studies, paving the way for different ways of looking at how personality influences and predicts success.
Okay, so I'll just pause it there, but hopefully you got a bit of understanding of that test and what it found. So basically, children who were able to wait for a greater reward was found to be more successful in the future. They got higher scores on their tests, and they also were more successful in their jobs later. Now, delayed gratification, if you think way back a few years ago, happened a lot generally in life. You would have to wait for your favourite TV show. You'd have to wait to cook the food on the stove. You would have to, even when you watch the show and there's a cliffhanger, you'd have to wait the next week until it comes back on again. But today, with all the technology we have, that is almost been removed naturally out of our day-to-day life. So children and adults, we no longer have to wait to find out what comes up next on the TV, because we can just, binge watch a whole series and get the conclusion in one day. We no longer have to wait for food. We've got very good fast food that happens every moment nowadays. And so at this point in time, this is something that's being lost, especially for young children who are growing up, that ability to understand I need to wait for the reward that I want, because so many things happen instantly. And so what we find now when it comes to exam time and they have to put a lot of work in before they see the reward of the result, you see that they lose steam on trying to keep going with it, because that's not a skill they've had an opportunity to build up. So what I would say for people who are trying to build up this skill or build up this motivation, if you see this in children, is giving them opportunities to wait for rewards, to wait for something they really want, or to work towards a goal. This would have happened naturally, but no longer does happen naturally, because everything's so instant. Even to wash our clothes, we just put it in, push the button, it's done. Whereas before you have to sit down and scrub it, it was natural to learn the art of working for something that you want. But because now everything is so much easier, it's very difficult, and that's why children find it so hard when they have to study, or if they really have to put effort into learning to drive, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is long. Why am I not good at it already? You know, exams, okay, I did it once, and I studied for one day and I'm not great at it. I'm not good at history. This is the reasons behind it. So the first thing I'd look at is delayed gratification, and building that in to your, if it's you personally or if it's a child you're trying to build that up on, that would be very helpful. And it's found, you know, in that test, the children who scored highly today are very successful people in society. The second thing I want to talk about is resilience. Resilience is a little bit like the image on the screen. This plant that's growing in a situation it shouldn't grow in. Resilience is that ability to keep trying even in the face of defeat, even in the face of despair. That understanding that even though I haven't done great now, I can work harder and be better tomorrow. And lots of studies have found that children who are resilient, even if they're not book smart, the fact that I've done this test, I failed, do you know what, I'm going to try again. I'm going to try at it. I'm going to try again. I know somebody, I won't name names because I'm not going to embarrass them, did their driving test, failed. As soon as they got home, rebooked it again. Did it again, failed. As soon as they got home, rebooked it again. Did it again, failed. As soon as they got home, rebooked it again. That's resilience. You know, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to say, do you know what, I've given up, I can't. Clearly I'm not a good driver. And so resilience is keep going even when things seem to be against you, even when things are hard, even when it's broken you, to know actually, and there will come a time where I'll be able to succeed at this. So ways that you can improve resilience is giving yourself opportunities to fail and then improve. Think of a child who learns to ride a bike. The amount of times they fall off that bike. That's building resilience, because they have that memory of, I wasn't good at this. It took me a long time. I've got the bruises and scars to show for it, but I kept going and now I can do it. And if you give yourself, or if you give other children opportunities to keep going, recognizing that even if I fail at the first time, I can keep going, those opportunities are helpful. Even if you have a child that's incredibly clever, what I find in school, a lot of those children who are really smart, when they face something they're not good at, they give up straight away, because they haven't had the opportunity to fail at something and see themselves succeed afterwards. And that's often where people who are very book smart fail at life, because their first hurdle they give up because they have not been exposed to something that they find tricky. I was watching Child Genius, and this family had a boy who clearly was a genius, but he was not good at sport, and their family put him into sports on purpose because the child finds everything easy, and they said this child needs to learn that not everything's easy and some things you have to work at. And the child hated the sport that they were put into. Every day they begged their parent, and the parents had the interview, and they're saying it's not good for my child to grow and not experience failure. And that's something that we need to put in, not something that's too hard for them, but they need to be exposed to things where they have to keep trying, keep working at it, because so many things now in the modern society is so easy. There's a shortcut to it. I can quickly do this. Oh, let me do this. There's so many quick fixes and shortcuts, but there are some core things in society, especially when it comes to your career, if you want to start a business, if you want to do anything, that actually requires some real hard work. It requires you feel as if you've hit rock bottom and you have to bring yourself up and work through it. So giving people and giving yourself those opportunities to fail and build up yourself again is extremely helpful, even as an adult. Take on a new skill you want to learn. At the moment, I'm trying to learn the guitar, which I'll be honest, my dad will say I'm the type of person, as soon as I start something, if I'm not good, I want to give up on it. But, you know, it's something that my husband, he keeps telling me I need to learn a new skill, and so the guitar is what I'm learning at the moment. And, you know, it's times when you're just like, you know what, I can't bother with this now, I've got more important things to do. But the skill of learning something new is good, even as an adult, continuing to do that. It helps you in other areas to think, well, I did this, you're not consciously thinking it, but in your subconscious, it's like, I was able to improve in that. It gives you that resilience to say, so what's the difference in this area? Same for children as well. And also think about the language that's used. Instead of using language of, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I haven't done this. Add the word yet. I can't do this yet. I'm not good at this yet. That changes the way you think. It gives you, and especially if you're talking to children, they're like, oh, I'm not good at maths. You're not good at maths yet. Because everyone can always improve. Anyone can be good at anything they put time into. So it's helping children and yourself, because even as adults, we're continually trying to improve, helping us to realise that anything you want to achieve, you can. And I personally believe that anything you're willing to make the sacrifices for, you can achieve. Anyone in here could be a billionaire if they were willing to make the sacrifices needed for it. You might lose all your friends and family, but you'd reach there. Most of us, is the sacrifices that needs to be made, working 24 hours. We're not willing to do that. Anyone can own whatever they want if they're willing to make the sacrifices necessary. It might mean that your mental health is gone in the process, but you are willing to make the sacrifices necessary. So it's that understanding. And the final thing I want to talk to you about is self-belief. I actually did my master's, my final, I call it the dissertation, the final big essay you do at the end was about self-belief in children. And I had to do a research project about self-belief in children and how it affects their ability to learn. And I found that self-belief has got a big impact on children and their ability to learn. Even children who are particularly clever, if it hasn't been vocalised to them, if they don't have that understanding for themselves, or even if others around them was more clever than them, even though they may be at the top, their self-belief limits their ability to move further and to complete their full potential. So self-belief is something key that we want to build into our children. It comes with the vocabulary that we use, and also with ourselves, because sometimes as adults we feel as if I can't do this. Because I recently got into the role of assistant head, so I was just, a regular teacher. And the head teacher said, oh, this role's coming up, I think you should try. And honestly, the first thing that came to my mind is, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And that's because of words that were spoken to me as a child. Because I had told a teacher I wanted to be a teacher, and they told me to be realistic, because my grades weren't good. And they were basically trying to explain that, don't set yourself up for failure. And sometimes when things come into my head, I'm like, I should just be happy with the fact that I made it as a teacher. I shouldn't really push any further, because I shouldn't really be a teacher anyways. So why am I trying to take that even further step? And that's that self-belief that sometimes can hold you back. And if I didn't have good people in my life to speak positively to me, even when my head teacher's telling me, I want you to apply for this role, I would say, you know what, it's not for me. So it's building that into your children and also yourself. Recognize when self-doubt is creeping in, because a lot of us have so many skills. I might not be the most book smart, and I really am not, but there are other skills that we develop that we know, world skills, skills of people skills, all these skills that a lot of people do not possess, a lot of people do not understand, and it's not quantified in the British school system. I'm very good at personal skills. At my work now, in the role that I do, I'm very good with parents who come in very upset, very irate. I might not be as good as the other teachers there who can write eloquently. Their reports are like the literature that they write for their children. It reads so beautifully to the ears, and the words that they use is amazing. But when a parent comes in that's shouting the odds, they don't know what to do in that situation, and I do. But those skills are not always valued when we go to school. That skill's not valued, it's not shown. And sometimes we have skills that is not tested in the school system. And so then we start to think, oh, I'm not good, like I can't do this, I'm not good enough at this. But not realising some of the skills that you have, those people you're looking to say, look at this person, they're amazing, look what they can do. They only wish they had some of the skills that you have, that maybe you don't see because it's not quantified by a GCSE test score or a SAT score or something like that. So having that self-belief, that confidence in our own ability allows you to aim high, allows your child to aim as high as they possibly can. Also, so ways you can improve self-belief is giving yourself opportunities to be successful. Continue to learn a skill, continue to develop your skills, no matter your age. Continue to keep your mind active. It helps you to believe in yourself. Use positive language when you talk about yourself. Stop saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, this is too hard. People think I can't do it, but I can't. People think I can, but I can't. I don't know why Pastor keeps asking me to do this because he knows I can't speak in front of people. I don't know why people ask me to pray because I don't know what to say. Oh, I don't know why my boss is asking me to do this and I can't because, stop using that language. You can say, I find it difficult, but I'm going to try. This is going to be challenging for me, but I'll try. When I first started teaching, I think I told you all before, I'm really bad at spelling. When I first started teaching, every lesson, I'd sit down and think about the words that might come up in that lesson. And I'd look in the dictionary and I'd write it on a post-it note and I'd stick it behind the board. So that when children are writing and when I have to model writing, I just can quickly look. This is where my thing of, I'm not even good enough to be a teacher comes on. But I have skills. And it's things that it don't matter what holds you back or where your challenges are. Find a way to go through it. Just because I don't naturally know how to spell a lot of words great, doesn't mean that I can't stand in front of a class and teach 30 children and they improve and they are successful. So don't let sometimes what society says your qualifications should be or your abilities. Have the belief in yourself. If you're willing to put the work in, I was willing to sit down the night before and write out all the spellings I'm going to need for that, and I've been able to reach that goal. So anyone who's thinking of doing something, if you want it enough, if you're willing to make the sacrifice for it, you will be able to do it. Another good thing to build self-belief is allowing yourself, or if it's your children, to view role models that look like them in the situation that they aspire to be in. If your child says they want to be a firefighter, it doesn't matter if they're a little girl, find out a good black female firefighter, let them read their biography, let them see posters of them in uniform. If you're, especially black females, you don't really see them in positions of authority. If that's what they want to do, allow them to see that. And sometimes, I know children, one day they want to be a hairdresser, then they want to be a YouTuber, then they want to be something else. But every time they say something they want to be, try and find someone in that area that looks like them. Let them look and see the images. If they have a biography or a story or even a Wikipedia about them, have a look, pick out the key points, because even if they change their mind later, at least in their head they're thinking, okay, there's people who've achieved things that I want to achieve, so when I think of the next thing, maybe there's someone in that role who looks the way I look that's achieved it already. And if you know somebody who's already in that role, expose the children to that, because children seeing themselves in the position they want is I can't even describe to you how much it impacts them. I had a class a few years back, they're now year 7, a terrible class, honestly, horrible class, like I was drained by lunchtime, and the head teacher at the time, so my school's across the road, so the demographics, mainly Black Caribbeans, there's hardly any white British children in the school, but the head teacher at the time decided that she wanted to get role models in the school that looked like the children in the school. So she had this local author that came in. He wasn't a big time author, but he had written some children's books. Young black man, he must have been early 30s. And he came and he did like a one-to-one session with each class. When I took this class, the children in the class that made me stressed, they turned around and said, you know what, at the time I was Miss Riley, you know what, Miss Riley, I think I want to be an author. And they kept asking the man, what did you do? How did you do it? So what, you just lived round the road? Because he just lived round the corner. Oh, so how did you write your first book? Da-da-da-da. Now, I'm not saying that they have written a book, I'm not saying that. But if you saw those children's faces to see that someone that lives the road around the corner from them is there showing a book that they have written, someone that looks like people that they can associate with has made it in life. It sparked a light bulb in their minds, and whether they go on to achieve or not, I know they've got that memory that actually I don't have to be like what society thinks I should be like. It's actually okay for me to step out and be different, and they could ask those questions. So it's very important that you allow them to see role models that look like them. So last thing I want to finish off with is saying success is more than just being intelligent. It's more than just being intelligent. There are many very intelligent people who have not achieved half of what they could have achieved because they don't have the other skills that go with it. Provide opportunities for yourself or others to experience delayed gratification, working or waiting for your reward. Allow opportunities to succeed, learn a new skill so that you allow opportunities to succeed and opportunities to fail, for your children to succeed and for them to experience failure. And always think about the language you use. There's lots of things people said to me when I was younger that still stick with me today. I have to put it to one side, but that's still the first word that comes to me today. So think carefully about the people that your children spend time with. Are they speaking positively into their lives? Because the people who said negative stuff were not my parents. There were other people who had said things about me and the thoughts and the plans I had for my future. So I'm going to just leave it there. I know we've run over a little bit. I was going to give some time for questions.
I think you should.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. If anyone wants to talk to me, myself.
Yeah, I've got a question. I mean, practically, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was excellent. But practically, what can a parent do then? Because of the fast society that we're in, is there any practical things that we can do? I know you mentioned some on your slides, but I'm thinking that really, really kind of practical to help build their self, their emotional intelligence, to make them feel good about themselves.
I think the main thing is have them learning a skill. I think involving them in other things, learning a new skill, I think that's probably the one thing we can do that's more rounded, covers quite a few of the areas you want to build up, is them having them continually looking at a skill that they're developing and learning, whether it's learning an instrument, doing a dance class, going to an art class. Even if it's you yourself, if you're the parent, you have a skill that you're taking your child and you're teaching them a session a week or something like that. That I think is helpful for them.
And I've got another follow-on. What can you do for those children who have those negative words spoken over them by the school professionals? How can you get them to unlearn it and get it out of their mind?
So research shows for every negative comment, you need 10 positive comments to combat that negative word. So I would say continue to have positive language, continue to positively speak into your own life, but also your children's lives as well.
Tiffany, I was also going to add with regards to delayed gratification as well. Sometimes we promise our children, but I will say, well, if you don't sit down, you're not going to get that. And they don't sit down to get it. And it's kind of like just being consistent. So don't make promises or say things that you know you cannot take through right to the end. Because it's so often we do that. You're not going to get lunch, but you know that you can't let that child starve. So think about something, another way that you can do it. So, okay, you wait for this and then you'll get that. So just kind of remember that whatever we say, we need to carry it through as well to help the child with their self-belief and resilience, I think, but especially the labour application.
Yes, thank you. And I'd just like to say, if there are any more questions, I'm here. She might not like it, but Janae also is professional in the field. She has actually studied the psychology part of it. I'm a teacher, I see more of the practical elements, but she studied the psychology part. I'm sure she'll be happy to speak to you. And I know Brother Patrick works with older children in a school as well, with special needs and who struggle to who struggles to regulate in class and so on. So there are people in this church that do have experience, and I'm going to say, I hope they don't mind, we're happy to, if you've got a question for you, I hope that's okay, for you to come and ask us any questions. Okay, thank you. I'd just like to say thank you everyone for coming to our youth day. For those who don't know, I am the youth leader, and she is Erika, who moderated, is my assistant. But also, I'm so happy we've got 2 new men who are joining our team. That's Delano and Brother Patrick. Brother Delano, Brother Patrick, who are joining, because those of you who've been here, you can see that our youth group is very boy heavy, which I'm thankful for. I thank the Lord that it's very boy heavy, and but it can be difficult as a female trying to lead these young men, so I'm glad that we've got some men on board to help us with that. Please continue to pray for the youth department. We're trying as much as we can to instill into these young people. COVID has made a big impact on a lot of our young people, but for all the young people here, I'm going to speak for myself and Erika and Brother Patrick and Brother Delano. We're very proud of what you've been able to do. I know boys, it's not the coolest thing to come to the front and read, I know that, but thank you for coming forwards, and I hope we come a day when you come with your own ideas that you want to do in the church service. We're just going to finish up. In fact, I've closed this and I could get the benediction up. If we could just stand. And before I do the benediction, I just want to ask if anyone had a special prayer request. If you had